Great. I'll get started now. It's a couple minutes after 7. Well, here it's 7. I'm on Central Time right now. We're going to be using Creative Paper Clay. Today it's available online at paperclay.com. It's also available at Michael's, Joann's, Amazon, Dick Blick, and Hobby Lobby. And look, your local craft store should have it. It's very easy to get these days. So we're going to be using this. This is a 16-ounce pack. There also is a smaller one at 8 ounce, which would do for this, because we're really not going to use a whole lot of clay with this. So you'll have some left over for more ornaments. During our live show, we will be giving away a pack of Creative Paper Clay. You have to say "I want to win" during the live for a chance to win a pack of Creative Paper Clay. Alright, well, let's get started. Let me go over some other stuff you'll need other than the paper clay. Let me just move this little guy aside. We're going to be using foil. These are just aluminum foil sheets. Any aluminum foil will do. I just prefer the sheets because it's just quick to grab a couple when I'm ready to start a sculpture. Welcome to those of you who are just joining us. Please share the live video for me. Alright, to decorate we're going to be using the foil to make the armature. And then to decorate our little guy, I am going to be using paints from Flat Paints. They have quite a few different brands. Apple Barrel and Folk Art are the ones that we will be using today. So these are great craft paints. Their coverage is very good and they're very affordable. So this one is actually a vintage white. This is daffodil yellow. Those are both Folk Art paints. And then we have just a regular white and jack-o'-lantern. So we're going to use those to paint our little guy there. An option for the eye, if you're not so good at doing these little circles, is a Posca pen. A Posca marker rather. It's basically an acrylic marker with a felt tip, so it's easier to control if you're not used to doing details like for the circle for the eye. If not, regular black acrylic paint is fine. And for those of you staining it, as you can see, there's a slight stain to it. You can see that color. You see it more under hair. Gets down in any little, cracks or crevices or whatever, like in the teeth. I used this antique medium, also by Plaid, and this one is apple, I think it's apple bucket brown. So that's what we'll be using today. Always good to have handy when working with clay is some diluted white glue. I just have mine in a jar. I keep a piece of wrap on it so the lid doesn't stick. That's the only purpose of it. So it's diluted about 50-50. So that's always handy to have. Of course, if you're using the glue, do not use a good brush with the glue. Always use an older brush with your glue. Great, and of course you'll need your paint brushes, a little sculpting tool. We're going to use a toothpick to keep the eyes in place. A toothpick is also handy for carving out the teeth area and those two little nose holes right there. I'm just using the wire cutter to cut the toothpick because it's easier. Alright, well, let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is just make the shape of this little guy. I'm not weighting it down because the tip, it goes up like this, so it won't fall over. The tip is smaller than the base. The base is wide enough to hold the weight. So I won't be adding in anything extra for the weight to that today. For those of you just joining us, we're giving away rather a pack of clay, so please say I want to win. Type it in the comment section during the live show, and you must stay to the end of the show in order to have a chance to win. And also, those of us joining us, please share the live video. It would be greatly appreciated. You guys are our best source of advertising. And remember, you can buy your clay online at creativepaperclay.com. Now you can do this as big or as small as you want to. That's up to you. You just keep adding foil, see, in that general shape, until you're happy with how it looks. And just squeezing the foil down like that, and then under like that. I only want the base a bit wider. I'm quite happy with the height of it, so I'm just going to add this to the base right here, just to get it that much wider. And then because it's foil, you just shape it into the candy corn shape. You of course could use crumpled paper as well with masking tape, if that's what you have on hand. That's entirely up to you. So I'm just making sure it's the shape that I want it before I start adding the clay. That's just to make sure it will stand up properly when we're finished. Alright, I think that's a good shape. It doesn't have to be perfect on the surface, like there's a little dent there, but remember we're adding the clay, so that actually is quite fine. So, let me get some clay here. I have an open pack here. Always keep your paper clay in an airtight container or a Ziploc bag with a damp paper towel, or you can also wrap it in some cling film, or the press and seal is also very good for this. Paper clay is very soft, so you really don't have to work at it to condition it like, you know, polymer clay, where you have to knead and knead and knead to get it to this texture. It's ready already, and I'm just gonna start just pushing it on. I'm pushing it down because I don't want any air bubbles to be trapped under there. So you can't just lay it on, you really have to push it down in there. But it's so soft that it just goes right on. It's not really a big deal. So I'm just going to continue pushing it on like this until my entire shape is covered in my armature, and then I will smooth it out. Don't forget the underneath. Once again, I'm just gonna go like that, just to make sure that my bottom remains flat, because it will have to stand. So we're almost finished covering already. That was fairly quick. I think I'm going to need to open more clay. So that's just the first layer. What we're going to do is smooth out, and if there are any little holes that need filling in, we can fill those in. And we're also going to make the lips and the eyes. And make sure we have enough clay on the area where we have the teeth. So as you can see, I just take out some. I'm going to put that right away because I don't want that to start drying out. This I'm going to use right now, but I'm just going to put this bit in here. It dries out fairly quickly, especially if you have, like I have an AC unit going in here. That will dry it out quickly, or if you live somewhere where it's very dry, it dries out very fast. So make sure you cover up that clay when you're not using it. Alright, so at this point now, we're going to smooth them out, and we're going to look around and see if you need any clay in any other area. Now to smooth, just dip your finger in some water and gently rub like that. The clay will move around a little bit in some areas where there's a lot, but that's okay, we can just fix that. If you find that you have an area where like that little line is quite visible still, just use a little sculpting tool and it's gone. Well, all you need is a little bit of water. When I mean a little bit, you just dip your fingers in and then you rub. You don't want to add too much because the clay will crack if you add too much water. I mean, the crack can be fixed. It's really not a big deal, but you know, you don't want to give yourself any extra work. The clay can also be sanded if you missed a spot, but the truth is, if you get it done now, it will be so much easier for you later on. So this part probably takes the most time. If I'm working on a large piece, I'll just switch on a movie and or art videos or something on YouTube while I'm smoothing it. Alright. I see you have some air bubbles right there. That's okay. I just didn't push down hard enough, so I'm just going to push down a little harder on that part. Remember, if you want a chance to win a package of clay, you need to stay. Type "I want to win" in the comment section, and you also need to stay until the end when the winner will be announced. If you are the winner, please don't put your name and address, well, your contact details, your address and your phone number in the chat on this live. Send a private message with that information. we just keep going here. We're almost done now. I know it seems like it takes a while, but I'm just trying to avoid work later on. See, the entire top part is fine now. And it's just down here that we have to work on. Now if you find that you have too much clay, like what's happened here at the end, you just have to break off a bit. It's not a big deal. And then continue to smooth it. That's what happens sometimes if you put on your clay a bit too thick. Pay attention to those little corners right here. Get those nice and smooth. And I think we're good. You can leave your top pointy if you want. You can point and curl, that's up to you. Alright, I'm happy with the shape of that little guy now. So you have to decide next is which side do you want the face on. It's up to you once again. And then we will add the face. Alright, for the face, I am going to just get some clay again. Just a little ball. And I'm just going to break this into two. Actually, it's a bit too much. Let's try that. Let's just roll it out like that. Kind of break it into two. Try to get even pieces so the eyeballs are more or less the same. And then just roll them out like that. Put the rest away for now. I'm just going to go ahead and just add some water right there in my hand, just so it's smooth as I roll it. Save me the trouble when it's on the sculpture. Alright, great. So there are two eyeballs. Now to attach these eyeballs, we are going to use our toothpick. You could just stick them on here, but chances are they'll fall off. So if it gets knocked or falls or something. So all you need to do is add a little bit of the toothpick, not too much. Like these two pieces are fine. Now we're going to decide where we want our eyes on this little guy. So I'm going to put them about here, just as a rough idea. So what you do is get a little glue. It's always good, even though the clay is wet, because I won't be smoothing out around the edges of these eyes. They're just kind of sitting on it, if you can see right here. They're not really smoothed on and the edges really, you know, attached firmly. So because of that, I'm adding a little glue. Like I said before, this is just diluted white glue. Not a big deal. And then, I've lost my two holes. Okay, they're there. I'm just going to put the toothpick in there like that. I'm going to try to push it into the foil a bit. Same with this side. Just push it into the foil a bit. That's why I'm using the pointy end, so I can really get it in there. And then simply add my eyes. Now you can make them any shape or any position rather you want. I like them when they're crooked like that. And just press them down firmly. Normally when we add clay, we would go behind her and just kind of, you know, blend the edges. But I don't really want to lose the circle of this eye, the shape. So that's why I used the glue. Alright, so the next stage is to add our mouth. As you can see right here, you can do different shaped mouths. It doesn't have to be like that. It can be sad, it can be angry, it can be shouting, anything you want really. So we're gonna add our mouth about right here, and then put our two little, actually we can put in a little nose right now. We'll put in our two little nostrils there. And then we're just gonna add our mouth below it like that. Now you can do the teeth before you add the mouth or after, that's up to you. I prefer after because then the shape is there. So let me just put him aside for a minute. Grab some more clay. We won't need this much, of course. Cover that back up. And what we're going to do is just roll out like a little wiggly shape. Just add in a little water because the AC is blowing right on this right here. So we're just going to add a little, we're just going to roll it out until it's a little snaky thing like what you used to do when you were kids with your plasticine or Play-Doh. We're going to use this to shape the mouth. You can make the mouth as big as you want or as small as you want. Of course, we don't need this much. I'll be cutting off some shortly. Let's just cut off some of this. And then I'm going to shape my mouth. Now that one has his mouth up. I might do this little guy with his mouth down. So you just have to decide what shape you want your mouth. So we could do him as a big sad face. I think I like that. That's actually quite cute for this one. You can do a whole bunch of them and do them with different facial expressions and different eyes. That would actually be quite cute. So I'm going to nip off right here, another bit right there, and see where we want that. I'm going to be using the diluted white glue again because I won't be blending as much as I'd like to stick that down. So I'm going to go ahead now and just shape my little mouth. Cut off that little bit. And about right there. And then what we're going to do is just blend those two little bits together. Just try to get it as close as possible. And then we're just going to blend. A paintbrush is also good at blending seams. And then I'm just gonna shape it a little bit more here. There, I like he looks kind of distressed. That's cute. And I'm just gonna gently blend under here like that. I'm just going in like that and just pulling down just a little bit of the clay. Not a lot. And I'm going to do this all the way around. Then I'll use my paintbrush to go over that to smooth it off. just shape my mouth again because it got a bit out of shape there. And this is just a damp paintbrush. I'm just going around the outer edges. Don't add too much water, just a damp one is good. And use it to seal. Yes, my blending brush is wet, Melissa. But not totally, not dripping wet, just wet enough. You could, if it's fully in the water, then wipe it off like you would when you're using paint. You don't put a totally soggy brush in paint unless it's watercolor, of course. It will get out of shape a bit when you're doing this, but that's fine. We can just go back in and just push the shape back a bit. Just fix his lip right here. Alright. And I'm just gonna push a little with my finger just to make sure we're fully down. Alright, so the next thing you need to do is to just draw in some teeth. You can use your sculpting tool. You can use another toothpick. Whatever you have on hand. There are many things you can do to draw the teeth. A paper clip could do an open paper clip, a piece of wire. Even a pencil is quite fine, a sharp pencil. Alright, so to do the teeth, it's straightforward. We're just gonna draw a line straight across from one corner to the other. If you mess up, it's not a big deal. You can just use your paintbrush once again and just go over like that to fill it back in. And then what you do next is just draw in your teeth. And use that damp paintbrush just to take out any bits. And you can go in again and make sure those lines are deep enough. And you can fix your lips again. And smooth any little areas that need smoothing. Now it's the time to do it. And that is pretty much it for sculpting this guy. You can go over your sculpture one more time, make sure you don't have any little fingernail holes. That happens to me all the time. Fix the top right here, it's drying already. Add a little bit of clay actually, and just fix anything that needs fixing. Then you're going to set this guy aside to dry. How long it dries depends on where you live, the weather, the humidity, that type of stuff. You can also dry in a low oven at about 200 degrees, 250 for about 20 minutes. I just have a toaster oven that I have in my art room that I use for that if I'm in a hurry. But usually I just leave them under a fan overnight. It's very humid here, especially like how it's hurricane season, so the humidity is terrible. So that's it for the sculpture. He's quite cute. I'm going to set him aside to dry. I have another one that I'd sculpted already, so we could jump right into painting. So let me just put this bit of clay away. whole row of them with different facial expressions would actually be adorable. Alright, now we've put all of that away. Here's another one who's smiling this time that I've already done. I've already gone over him, sanded any areas that needed sanding, and applied a coat of gesso. For those of you who've never used paper clay before, a very fine sandpaper is recommended, or what actually works well for me is those buffing tools for your nails, where you use for mani-pedi. So those work really well as well. So, as I mentioned before, I'm going to use these paints here. I'm going to start with those. So let's start at the top and work our way to the bottom, or bottom then top, we'll see. I think I'm going to work at the bottom first. So I'm going to use the yellow. So I'm just going to put some right here. Depending on the type of paint you're using, you may need to do more than one coat. As you, this one probably, oh sorry, I think this one had maybe 2 coats in some areas. I can't remember right now because I did it a while back. So we're going to start with the yellow. This yellow has good coverage, so I think 1 coat will be fine. If you need a second coat, just dry in between really quick with the heat gun. As you can see, I'm not using a lot of paint. It has very good coverage. You saw the small amount I squirted onto my craft mat a while ago. And I'm not going for perfectly straight lines. Just going to use what's left to fill in under here. And I think we're pretty good there with coverage. So I'm going to rinse up my paintbrush. I'm just going to give it a quick dry, because I want to probably stand it at some point, and I don't want it to stick to the mat and pull off the paint. So the next color we'll be using is the orange. We're more than halfway there now. So please hang on until the end. And we will just be painting here. Don't worry if it gets on the lips, because the lips are going to be black anyway. You might need to switch to a smaller brush when we do right there. Let me use another brush. That one actually might be a bit big. Let's see if we have another smaller one here. And there we go. this to get under hair. And I'm just going to tidy up this line at the bottom, and then we'll move to our final color. If you find that you go over it right there, that's fine. We'll just go back over that with some yellow in a bit. Sometimes you have a lot of back and forth. And this area here could use a little bit more orange. Alright, so we're going to move on to our other color now, which is the vintage white. Just clean out my brushes and dry them off. I'm not too bothered if they have a little paint in them. Alright, let me just dry this a bit. You're gonna have to hold it. Let's go ahead and start adding that white. You can use a regular white if you want as well. I just find that it's a bit stark against the orange. Or if you don't have the vintage white, a good idea would be to use the regular white and just tint it with a little bit of the yellow. Going to go under hair. That orange paint's just a tad bit wet still. I'm going to have to dry that bit before I paint it. Or we can just blend it in. That's another option. That's actually quite cute. I'm just going to blend that in right there, all the way around. Just go in and blend that. Of course, if you didn't like that happened, you could just dry it and then just go over it. But I think it's actually quite cute, so I'm just blending it. kind of like, the brush is very dry now, so it's kind of like a dry brush type of blending. And then what we'll do now is let's just give it a dry, and we can go in and fix any little parts that needed fixing. We'll move on to the lips and the eyes shortly. Let's just fix that little spot there. I'm not too worried about it being perfect though, because I do plan on staining it. So I'm not going to bother pour out any more paint. I'm just going to shake it and just use what's in my lid. And just fix that spot really quickly. Let me just check this side. And it really just is back and forth until you get it how you want it. I think a purple one would be nice as well, with like maybe purple and orange and black. That would be quite cute. Use those Halloween colors. And then I'm just going to go back in again right here. And that's pretty much how it's done, back and forth. Alright, right there looks good now. Let's flip it around. A lot of the times when you don't wait for it to dry in between, you do tend to end up with these problems. But for the sake of this demonstration, I have to keep going. But you could make sure it's dry properly in between. I'm just gonna go over the eyes now, using the same antique white. And the teeth. You could even get in some funky teeth and do some black. That would actually be funny as well. Alright, I think I'm good with painting those things. It's just the black that we need to add now with the lips and stuff. But I'm gonna have to dry it first a bit to do the eyes for sure. We'll do the lips first and then the eyes. I see that we have a winner, Carrie Rubio Bailey. Congratulations. I hope you guys are enjoying this Facebook Live. I try and do cute little projects every month that you guys will have fun sculpting. Sometimes it's difficult to come up with something that we can do in just under an hour. But next month I have planned for you a little pumpkin tea light holder. So that should be quite cute. Alright, I'm going to go ahead now and paint the lips. And just get these in there. I'm going to use a fine paintbrush for this, to outline especially. And it's pretty straightforward. Just go around course, paying special attention to those edges. Actually, I think I prefer a flat edge one. There we go. See, starting to take shape now. Alright, I got some black where I didn't want it, but that's okay. I'll go back over. And I'm going to show you how to do the eyes with the Posca marker. It's very simple. You just push the tip down to get the flow started. Make sure it's not flooding or anything like that. It sometimes happens. And then you just simply draw on it like you're drawing on a piece of paper. And just fill it in. See how easy that was? And it's just so much easier sometimes. I find that when you're doing like eyes with the circles and you're just not in the mood to you know, sit there and fight with the paintbrush. Some days it just doesn't go right, especially if you're in a hurry. So I find that this is really good for those instances. You could even use it with your lips if you like. I mean, it's up to you. But look how quickly and easily I did that. They're acrylic based markers, so it's actually acrylic paint in the marker. I definitely would recommend them. They have them in different sizes as well. So I'm going to let those dry for a bit while I just go back over these teeth. Let's just dry it. And I'm just going to go back in and just fix right there. As I said, it's a lot of back and forth when you're doing this detail work. Alright, let me show you how to do those eyes really quickly now. We're finishing up shortly. And just dip your toothpick in the paint and put two little highlights. And there you go. Now, if you want to seal it, I would recommend that you let the paint sit overnight or so, because sometimes it will rub back off. I'm going to show you how to do it on this one I've already done. That's okay, I'll just show you one spot. because I don't want to seal this right now because it's not fully dry. It's dry to the touch, but I'd rather it sit for a while before we, sorry, stain it. I said seal. I meant to say stain. And even for sealing it, like with a varnish, a spray varnish, it's best to just let it sit for a bit first to be properly cured. I'm not going to pour it out because I just want to show you a tad little bit. So what you'd need for this is a paper towel or a damp cloth, or well, it depends how much you want to take off. A damp cloth is good if you have too much stain on there, and a wet wipe is also good for that. Other than that, a dry paper towel or a soft cloth. So I'm going to just show you how to do it on this one that's already done. So you just dip your paintbrush in and you paint a little section like this. It's good to work in sections, especially if it's a bigger piece. And make sure it goes down in any little crack and crevice, because that's what makes a difference. It brings out the texture in the piece. Then you let it sit for a minute, and then you just wipe it off, and you can see the stain color there. Let me show you once again up here, because this part is very pale, so it should show you. If you don't want it as dark, you can use a wet wipe, which I will show you as well. Let it sit for a minute, and there you go. See the difference? So it gives it a nice antique kind of look. As I said, I recommend that your sculpture sit overnight before you do that though. And then stain it the next day. A wet wipe, if it's too dark, like I don't like that, it's too dark, it just takes it right off. See? But what it does is that it leaves it down in those little nooks and crannies on your piece, and it just gives it character. So that's staining. The stain I used is an Antique in Medium. It's by Plaid, and it's called Apple Bucket Brown. There are several of them. It just depends on the shade that you want for your piece. So I think I've covered everything. A great varnish as well, also by Plaid, is their spray sealer. It's I have matte and gloss. I think there's a satin one as well. I use those a whole lot. And that's it. We are all done at your cute little piece. Now we have 2 of them, and then when this little guy's finished, I'll have 3. So it'll be quite cute. Thank you so much for joining me. October 1st is our next show. We will be making, I haven't finished it yet, it's going to be a little pumpkin, a little jack-o'-lantern, and he's going to have a little tea light holder on top of him. So be sure to join us. I'll get that posted on Facebook as soon as it's done, so you can see what you have to look forward to. Please remember to share our posts. You can share this video even when it's finished, and when I put up the advertisement for the next clay talk, you can share it with your family and friends and all your groups and stuff. Thank you so much for joining us. I do hope that you enjoyed the sculpture, and I will see you again on October 1st.